Hey racers, and welcome back to another live stream. We've still got everything backwards on the video, so um, just gonna have to deal with it for now. I know it looks a bit funny. Topic for today's live stream, though, or this afternoon's live stream, is how to mimic arm pump, okay, or more so, how to replicate arm pump. So I have a lot of riders ask, or they deal with arm pump when they're out riding, and they'd like to know how they can replicate arm pump. Hey Hayden, to be able to improve it, to be able to get rid of it. And I guess the theory behind that is if you can train to get rid of arm or train arm pump and get that feeling of that pump more during the week, then when you come to the weekend, then theoretically you shouldn't get arm pump or arm pump as much. So top 3 ways that you can do it, just off the top of my head that I wrote down. If you want to mimic that feeling of arm pump, you can roll a brick up on a string. That one's been around for ages. Get a brick, put a piece of string on it, get a piece of timber, old handlebars, whatever you want to get, and you can roll that up. Okay, move your wrists backwards and forwards. You can do grip strength exercises or forearm curls. So you get a barbell. Maybe I'll stand up for this one. Get a barbell, okay, in your hand, and you do wrist curls with it. Okay, get it into your fingers and then roll it up. Okay, you can see there my forearms working. You can see the muscles here. Or the other thing, which I just found out on the weekend, I made pancakes for my partner for breakfast on Mother's Day. Hey Milan. And the specific recipe that I had for making pancakes, you had to separate the yolks from the whites in the eggs. So I did that, and then it needed me to whisk up or beat the whites to make like a meringue type thing to put in these pancakes. And so you get the mixer out with the 2 things that hang out the bottom that spin around in circles to beat it. That will give you arm pump. All right, if you put that thing on full blast and you're using the mixing bowl and you keep going and going and going and going and going, you will get arm pump in your forearms. Now, they're the ways to get arm pump and to mimic arm pump, okay? But I want to share something with you that will hopefully get you to look at arm pump in a different light and to deal with arm pump in a different way, maybe to what you've done so far. So if you've dealt with arm pump, just give me a like on the video. Also lets me know that you're here. I think we've all dealt with arm pump at some stage, and if we don't get it all the time, we've probably had it at some point in our riding or racing career. So what happens is when we have a muscle, so let's take forearms out of it for a minute. Let's go with these things, biceps, right? So let's say I do a whole heap of bicep curls, and all I do is just keep curling and curling and curling with these heavy weights and keep going until my arm can't go anymore. What happens is I get a pump in my arm, a pump in that muscle. This is what bodybuilders do. You'll hear bodybuilders talk about getting a pump, okay, in a specific muscle group. And so what's happening is they're doing a whole heap of reps or sets to a specific muscle group and really breaking it down and putting it under a lot of stress. And so what happens is as I keep doing these curls with heavy weight, working at my absolute max and, can't get any more reps out with my bicep, is a lot of oxygen and blood is demanded of that area. Okay, the muscle needs more nutrients than other muscle groups in the body to keep it going. And so what starts to happen is a lot of blood and a lot of oxygen gets diverted from other areas of the body and pushed into my bicep, okay? And so that's what gives you that pump. That's what gives you that feeling of like everything pooling up. And it feels like blood's rushing to the area. That's because it is. So what happens is I think I've read it gets up, when you get a pump in a specific area, you get up to 4 times more blood flow in that specific area. And so when that happens though, it does restrict your movement to a degree because you've got up to 4 times more blood, okay, or liquid in that specific area. And so the body needs this. It's trying to keep you going, trying to keep those muscles working. And that's why it's delivering more blood and more oxygen because that's where it needs more nutrients than what other areas of your body need. So it diverts blood from other areas to that specific area. So that's what gets the pump. Now, when I get that pump though, okay, it makes it a lot harder for me to be able to move this area because there's a whole heap of liquid in there. It feels swollen, okay, and it is swollen. And so that's how a pump works. Now, the same thing happens for arm pump, okay? So if you're going riding and your forearms, so these things are like rock hard afterwards, It's because they've been overused to the point where they're really fatigued and they're not used to doing the amount of work that you're asking of them. And so what happens is a whole heap of blood and oxygen is rushing to that area to help to give those muscles the nutrients that they need to be able to keep them going. And so in the meantime, that starts to blow up and expand. There's also a compartment in here which houses muscles in there. And so the more that you get arm pump, that compartment will start to stretch. As more blood flow starts to go in there, that compartment gets a little bit bigger, and stretches itself. And so over time, like if you kept doing those exercises, if you kept doing wrist curls, okay, you keep getting arm pump every day, for example, eventually like that system is going to get more efficient. That compartment's going to be slightly bigger, and your muscles are obviously going to get stronger as well and fatigue less, because you're doing the exercise more. So that's how arm pump works. Now, the big thing is though, the arm pump that you're getting through the arm is not really the main problem if that's what you're dealing with. And the reason I say that is if you're doing good quality weight training, you get on the bike once a week, is these muscles should have a reasonable amount of strength in them. Okay, if you're doing the right weight training, like I always talk about, doing deadlifts, back squats, bent over rows, overhead presses, that sort of stuff, you should have enough grip strength to be able to hold onto the bike. Okay, that's not going to be an issue for you. Same as if you're getting on the bike every week, grip strength shouldn't be an issue for you. The real problem comes is when we're holding on too much with our hands and not holding on or gripping onto the bike enough with the rest of our body. And so what happens is, for example, like if you're getting arm pump later on in a ride or later on in a race, is you're fresh at the start and you're probably using your legs to grip onto the bike, okay, and everything's nice and tight and you've got your elbows up and you're doing all the right things. And then as you continue to ride and you get more and more fatigued, you sit down more, your legs aren't working as well, maybe your back gets sore, your shoulders are sore. So automatically what happens to compensate for that is we grip onto the bike a lot tighter. And as soon as you start to grip onto the bike a lot tighter, these muscles are working overtime. Okay, and that's what causes the pump in here, because now these muscles are being overworked, like when we were doing our bicep curls, which causes the issue. So how do you overcome this? Well, the goal is not always to just strengthen up your forearms and get your forearms stronger. The real way to get rid of arm pump is to focus on getting the rest of your body working well. Okay, the rest of your body working efficiently and effectively. Because if your legs don't get fatigued, then they can keep doing the work. And if you look at the size of your legs and you look at the size of your forearms, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out which one's bigger and which one's more powerful and stronger and is going to have a lot more endurance in them. So the more we can get your legs and the rest of your body doing work, the less likely it is that you're going to be gripping on 10 times harder than what you normally do and smoking out these bad boys at the end of a moto. And that's really all I've got to say when it comes to that. I mean, mimicking arm pump is going to give you this much progress. Getting your legs stronger, getting your whole body working together, building great levels of strength, that's what's going to give you this much progress, okay, with getting rid of arm pump. There's a lot of different things, and I've been tossing up doing a video. I really want to do it, but it's just going to take a lot of effort. One day I'll get to it. I would like to be able to do a video with all the different devices and things that are out there, diets and stuff like that, that get rid of arm pump and break them down for you and show you how they can help, or maybe while you're wasting your time with them as well. Like you can buy like the forearm strong device, I know, which pretty much what that does is that's working on trying to stretch out that compartment that's in here. Okay, so if you look at forearm strong, it uses a device or a little prod thing to push down on a specific muscle group and allow you to get a really good stretch through your forearm. That's what allows that compartment to expand, okay, to a small degree. Same with arm pump surgery. So arm pump surgery is where we're cutting that tissue or making an incision in that compartment that's in your forearm to make the compartment a little bit bigger, which allows more blood to be able to go into that area. So it's like having a bit of a balloon there, I guess, and what you're doing is trying to make that balloon a little bit bigger. So that can give you a small amount of progress. Other things out there, like I've seen diets for arm pump. The way that you get arm pump, so if you look at from a bodybuilding perspective, the way bodybuilders improve their pump is through carbohydrates, because of a lot of what's being delivered to your muscles when it gets that pump is carbs to help them to be able to recover and repair themselves. The problem is if you cut carbs out of your diet, you're cutting out your main energy source that you need for racing. So you could go ketogenic, and maybe that will give you less of a pump when you go and ride and even when you go and train. but you're not going to be performing at as high of a level anyway. So it's not something I recommend. Same with like the power ball. There's a little power ball you can use to move your wrist around. Again, that's working on just strengthening up the forearm muscles, okay, and getting maybe even your grip as well a little bit stronger. And replicating arm pump can maybe stretch the compartment a tiny bit, and it's getting your muscles in your forearm stronger. But again, that's not the real problem. Okay, if you're getting arm pump all the time, arm pump it's not the arm pump is not the actual problem. The problem is what's causing your forearms to be under such an excessive load. What's causing them to always be at failure? And that's probably either technique thing on the bike, or the other thing is you're just not, maybe your technique's good and then it deteriorates as you go through the race because you're fatigued. And so you need to work on your fitness and your strength and doing the right things there. I did see a couple of questions here. Milan, I'm finding it hard to grip bike with legs. Just feels being a taller rider, the knees don't clamp and slips on plastics. Yeah. So you need to get your legs stronger. So I'm a taller rider as well. I'm 6'2" or 6'1.5". I'm not sure how tall you are, Milan. But you do need to get your legs stronger. So if you are taller, you're right, like your knees will be up a lot higher, but that means your legs need to be extra strong, okay, to be able to clamp in and keep things tight. Whereas for a smaller rider, perhaps maybe it is easier, right? If they've got a lot more of their thighs and their quads holding onto the bike. But there's advantages and disadvantages for being tall. But you can't, obviously, once one of those things, you can't fix your height unless you chop your legs off, which I don't recommend. You need to get your legs stronger. You need to get your legs so strong to a level where it doesn't matter where your knees are sitting on that tank. You can grip in nice and tight and maintain that level of tightness from the start of a race to the end of the race. Let me know if that helps, Milan. Aaron, what if you have good strength and pushing heavy weight but still burning out? Would you focus more on endurance if you have the strength? Yeah, so first of all, I'd have a look what is adequate strength. Okay, so everyone has different levels of strength standards. I speak to guys that move 20 kilo cement bags that say I'm strong. That's not strong. So as a rough gauge to see if you're in the right ballpark, if you can back squat about 120 kilos to parallel, if you can deadlift 160 kilos, if you can do overhead presses with 70 kilos. Okay, if you can hit roughly, you're hitting roughly around those numbers. It doesn't have to be exactly those numbers, but if your numbers are around those levels, then you've got adequate strength. Okay, things can always be improved, but it's probably not the main problem if you're still getting arm pump. If you're still burning out and you've got that level of strength, Aaron, it could be your conditioning that's out, and that's the problem. So you need a combination. You need to have good strength, but you also need to have enough oxygen supply to muscles for them to be able to keep going at a high level. So there's a difference. Strength is important, but to keep that strength and that strength endurance going, you need to be able to make sure that your body is really good and efficient at bringing oxygen in and delivering it to the muscles to be able to keep them going. And the way that you do that is through interval training or high intensity training. So it's doing, like, for example, it could be jumping on the rowing machine, 30 seconds flat out, 30 seconds rest. You might do 8, 10, 12 rounds of that. That's what you need to be able to work on. So still work on maintaining your strength. It just might not be what your focus is, or maybe you use the same weights every week just to keep your strength where it is. And you focus on the cardio and the conditioning side. So using intervals is going to get your body more efficient with oxygen, which means instead of your strength starting up here and then dropping like that, we can get it, we're dropping off like this, okay, or dropping off like this, or dropping off less and less. Just give me a thumbs up if that helps you, Aaron. 6'1", Milan, awesome. Yeah, so you're about the same height as me. So 100%, get those legs stronger. Start doing some squats, start doing some deadlifts, movements like that are going to help to build some really good strength. Belinda, have really bad arm pump for practice and first race, but then I'm good. Any tips to help this? Yeah, so there's two types of arm pump. And I called them myself type 1 and type 2 arm pump because there's no one else out there that's broken them down into two types. Everyone just puts them in as arm pump, and there really is two types. Type 2 arm pump is when you get arm pump later on in the race, and it starts off good and gets worse and worse. Type 1 arm pump is the opposite way around, which is where it's worse at the start of the day or start of a race and gets better and better as you keep going. A couple of things contribute to type 1 arm pump. First of all, it could be a warming up problem. So if you go into the gym and just start lifting heavy weights without warming up properly, you'll get that same feeling, you'll get that pump. And that's because everything's really tight and stiff. Your body feels like there's a lot of trauma being done to it because it hasn't been warmed up correctly. The muscles aren't, come up on my phone. The muscles aren't pliable and stretchy. So warming up could potentially be a problem. And as you're getting through the day, Belinda, your body's getting warmer and warmer, or maybe the temperature of the weather is even getting warmer and warmer. And so the arm pump gets better and better because you've got more of a warm up. The other thing that I find happens as well with type 1 arm pump, especially like you're saying where it's practice and first race and then it seems to be good at the end of the day, usually there's a lot of nerves, anxiety, stress at the start of a race day. And so automatically, anytime we're stressed, we're not comfortable on the bike. Okay, and when we're uncomfortable on the bike, and we feel like there's a lot of pressure, it could be mental pressure, physical pressure, we hold on a lot tighter. Okay, we grip onto things with a death grip. And so the harder you grip on, the more these muscles are working, the more blood flow that's flowing into that compartment, which means it's going to be more and more of an issue for you. What I find on a race day is usually we're most stressed and anxious at the start of the day because that's when we're fresh, we're eager, we've been thinking about it. As we've gone through a couple of races, we've moved our body, we're not as stressed, we're not as anxious, we've calmed down a little bit. And even though the track's rougher, we tend to relax a little bit more on the bike. And so what happens is we ride better, we ride more comfortably. We're not holding on with a death grip like we were at the start of the race. So it will be either of those two, Belinda, either not warming up properly and we're just jumping on the bike, going from 0 to hero in a matter of seconds, or number 2 is there's a level of you're getting more comfortable on the bike as you're going through a ride or a race day. Let me know if that helps, Belinda. Just give me a thumbs up. Hey, John. Any other questions, guys? Anything else? Anything else I can help with regard to muscle pumps, arm pumps, finger pumps, anything else at all? Or if you enjoyed the video, if you could just give it a like, that would be great. Show it to some other people on the book. Any questions though? Anything else? Or are we all good? Any other questions at all? Is tight fascia an issue? Yeah, so fascia is what surrounds the muscles, okay? And that's really what's happening when you're getting arm pump surgery is they're cutting the fascia, which allows this area to have, so think of there's all these muscles running down in here, right? And there's a compartment over the top of those, which blood flow runs into. So that fascia around the outside is what's making up that compartment. When you do stretches and things like that, that stretches out that fascia and breaks it down. When you get dry needling or massage, okay, they break down that fascia, which gives the muscles more space to be able to move. When you get arm pump surgery, they're cutting that fascia and trying to make more space for it that way. So fascia is definitely, it's not a problem because we've got fascia all through our body. Okay, that's how our body's designed. The real problem we've got to find out is if you've got a continuing issue of arm pump, is why are those muscles getting so overloaded? Why are they so overloaded compared to the rest of the body? And so that's what you've got to find out. That's where the work is done, finding out what's causing those muscles to be overloaded. In terms of like expanding fascia and things like that, you can do like dry needling, you could do massage, but you can just do things yourself. You can get a golf ball. I don't have one here with me now. Get a golf ball and push down on it, which will mimic what the forearm strong does. Okay, push down and move your wrist backwards and forwards, and you'll feel it loosen up as soon as you do it. But then it will get tight again. Okay, and that's what you've got to figure out. You've got to go, why is this area being so overloaded? And most of the time that comes down to inadequate levels of strength on the bike, or it could come down to technique on the bike as well. Let me know if that helps at all, Tina. Hey, Patrick. Milan, will foam rolling help before starting to ride? Yeah, it can do. So like I was just talking about with Tina in terms of fascia, our whole body is lined with fascia. Sometimes that gets a bit stiff and built up and rigid. And so foam rolling is a great way of breaking down that fascia to allow the muscles to move more efficiently and more effectively. So definitely, before you go and ride, you can roll out your legs, roll out your calves, roll out your back, roll out your lats, these muscles under here. You can even roll out your shoulders. Definitely, 100% will help you to be more mobile and feel a lot better. Any other questions, guys? Anything else? I've got to jump on a call soon, so I'll have to wrap up in a few minutes. But if there's any last-minute questions, I'll get them answered for you. It can be to do with arm pump, to do with training, nutrition, even if there's anything that's not related to what we're doing here. Also, let you guys know I've been putting a lot of content up on YouTube lately. So any of you guys, if you want to head over to YouTube, I'll put it in the comments. Let me do it now. youtube.com/drivenathletetraining. You can head over to YouTube and subscribe and follow all the YouTube videos that I put up as well. Cool. All right. That looks like it might be it then. Do I have riding technique videos? No, I don't. So one of the things with motorsport, not motorsport, but riding and racing is, riding and racing compared to other sports in the world is a poor man's sport. And what I mean by that, I mean that in a respectful way. It's definitely expensive to do, but it's poor in terms of, if you look at the major earners, like money-wise in racing, it's not that high in comparison to other sports. So if you look at the top supercross riders or motocross riders, so maybe Ricky Carmichael, Chad Reed, let's say, $2, $3, $4, $5 million, right? Maybe a year when they've been in their prime. If you look at the NBA, hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts. Okay, hundreds of millions. It's just a completely different league to where we operate with motocross and motorsport. And so what happens with that is, obviously for the riders, there's less money for them to spend on different areas. So like even UFC, for example, again, tens of millions of dollars that they're earning. So if you look at like Conor McGregor, for example, he has a movement coach, he has a strength coach, a nutrition coach, a massage therapist, a personal trainer, a massage therapist, not a personal trainer, well, he would have a personal trainer, a physio, sorry, don't know why it took me so long to physio. But then also, what they do, the highest level UFC fighters, they pay, because UFC is made up of different sporting disciplines, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, could be karate, could be taekwondo, could be wrestling. What they do is they pay other athletes that are at the top of their game in their specific sport to come out and spar with them, right? So if there's a particular person that's good at wrestling that lives in Italy, they'll fly that person out from Italy to, say, America, to the gym to spar, just to practice with a particular athlete to get them ready, right? Now, that's on a completely different level to what we operate with motocross. Now, motocross at the highest level, they probably got a personal trainer and they do a bit of everything. Or a trainer that does bike skills and bike work and fitness and all that sort of stuff. In reality, though, they're two completely different skill sets. So the skill set to train someone to ride the bike is a completely different skill set to how do I get someone's body to perform at its best. It's just that in motocross, again, the best of the best don't earn as much money as other sports, so it's diluted a little bit. The best of the best might have just one person doing a bit of everything, whereas in reality, they're specialist fields in themselves. And then even break that down, nutrition and strength is a different field to conditioning. Like, depending on how much money is in the sport is how specific they go with each person. But for where we're at with racing, what I'm trying to do is just, first of all, separate riding technique and training. I do all the nutrition, the strength training, mobility, the movement, the rehab stuff. I do all that sort of stuff. But the skill set to teach someone to ride is completely different. They're two completely different lines of thinking, lines of skills, lines of experience. So although I've done 14 years of racing, I'm not a coach. I'm not a technique coach. I'm not going to be able to, I could give you the odd tip, but it's just coming from me having done shit tons of riding, not because I'm actually a coach in that field. So no, to answer your question, because it's just a different skill set. So all of your off the bike stuff, I've got you covered. And you can head over to my YouTube channel that I just posted up there, and there's more videos than what you could listen to. All right, cool. I've got to jump on another call. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Again, if you liked it, just please give me a thumbs up. Helps to support the videos. Any of you guys would like some help with your training, feel free to reach out and send me a private message. Otherwise, hope you enjoy the YouTube videos as well. I'll see you guys soon. See ya.